Abstract, pure research in economics and policymaking is a lot more blur and diffuse, and it should be, because economics is not an abstract endeavor, as I answered in the first question. It's something that relates to real lives and real relationships and interactions, and ultimately with the physical constraints that we have around us. So it's a little funny for me to say that I'm a mathematician myself, and mathematics can be defined as an abstract endeavor. Parts of mathematics, which mathematicians like to call pure math, and even there, the distinction between pure math and applied math is not very rigid and should not be. So we can talk about mathematics if you want, but going back strictly to economics is a bit like saying what is the difference between abstract epidemiology and epidemiology applied to a policymaker. There should not be, right? The entire subject is dedicated to, and I'm using epidemiology because, of course, we are still in the middle of a pandemic and everybody became an amateur epidemiologist. And there's a resurgence of understanding of even things that people would call very abstract mathematical models for disease contagion and spread. And it turns out that they're not abstract at all. These are the things that actually happen when a virus, a pathogen arises. And you need that kind of modeling because you cannot just rely on just data and extrapolation of data. As everybody was seeing at the beginning of the pandemic, these were exponential rates, and if you just extrapolated that, you would find that there would be more people infected than people in the planet, and of course it doesn't make sense. So you know that these things are going to turn around and saturate either by the natural development of the disease or because of policy interventions. But this all has to be understood by models. So what are models? Are models abstract academic research, or are they part of policy making? It doesn't really matter. They are the ways that you understand what's happening around you, and with economics is the same thing. I don't think there is any role for doing some mathematical style theorem proven research in economics if that's not related to ultimately some type of policy making that will have an impact on all of the areas that I mentioned in the answer to the first question. Now, policymaking itself is not the only goal, because that's part, what is policymaking is what the one part of the economic system, namely the government, can do to influence what the other actors and what other parts of the economy are doing. So again, using the analogy with the epidemiology, policymaking is just the lockdown and the vaccination and the mask wearing and so on and so forth. But that's only one part of epidemiology. Epidemiology is about understanding the entire mechanisms, all the way from the biology of the pathogens all the way to the interactions of people and the behavior of people. So similarly with economics, I don't mean to say that every single paper in economics needs to have a policy component, because a lot of the work is in understanding how the rest of the system works, even without the participation of a policymaker or a government or something. So it's understanding at the very fundamental level how firms are organized and workers participate in firms, and how individual households interact with both market and non-market relationships, and then keep aggregation, keep making it larger and larger, and then eventually see what the entire macroeconomic context is about. And of course, governments are part of that, because they exist as both an important economic sector that buys and sells a lot of things. So it's part of the what all of the other agents, households, banks, firms, etc., they need to take into account in their day-to-day decisions. But they are also there for extraordinary circumstances, right? Where there is a crisis, or where there is some maybe it doesn't need to be after a crisis occurs, but in anticipation of something that is going to go very wrong, then government can try to go beyond its day-to-day role in economic relations and try to do something more. So that's where the attention to what the effects of the policy should be heightened. But I would say it should be there all the time, right? There is no economy without a government. And so it's not fruitful, I think, to think of a very strong distinction between abstract, idealized economies or economic research, and then, well, okay, now we come down from that perfect, rational, abstract system and see what the policy should be. It should be entirely integrated. As I'll re-emphasize, there's no point of doing abstract epidemiology if you're not going to deal with real diseases.